back to another Hunt Wellness class. Today we are going to be exposing diet drinks and sugar-free drinks. So we are going to dive right into what sugar and artificial sweeteners do to our brain, and then we're going to kind of go through the science behind what these artificial sweeteners do to our body that are in these diet drinks and in these sugar-free drinks. So to start off, sugar-free, sugar and artificial sweeteners, both. So normal sugar and your artificial sweeteners, things like aspartame, stevia, xylitol, all of these things, what they do to our brain. So they trigger something in our brain called the reward center. And the reward center shoots out dopamine and cortisol, telling us to eat more. So when we do that, and we continually do this in our brain, it can create an addictive behavior, an addictive pattern to these drinks. So, and this evidence, the scientific evidence and literature shows substantial parallels between drug abuse and sugars. So we want to be really cautious moving forward with these guys, because essentially what that is telling us is sugar is a drug. And if you don't already know that, anytime you've tried to quit sugar, it's hard. Some people do really great and they are able to cut sugar, no problem. Other people, the majority of people, really struggle to cut sugar. Me being one of those. So you are not alone. And then also, when we're trying to cut out that sugar, we're experiencing all these withdrawal effects, which is like, all right, I'm a druggie. Like, that's what that is telling me. It's like, wow, I have a problem. But really it is, the evidence shows that there is that parallel between the drug abuse and actual sugar, but it is showing that the way that our brain responds is the same as somebody that's abusing something like methamphetamine. So, and it's also showing that our behaviors are addictive like behaviors. Some, like, for example, binge eating. So that's an example of addictive behavior. So now that you know that what sugar and artificial sweeteners do to our brain and why it's addictive and why it's a problem, like, just to set the scene there, let's dive into even deeper reasons why we should be removing artificial sweeteners specifically. Sugar is probably a whole nother topic. I'm not going to dive into that a whole lot, but sugar specifically, I'll just touch on it right now. So sugar, if you switch out for like maple honey and coconut sugar, those are healthier options of sugars. So if like that is your goal, to reduce the amount of sugar you're eating, switch it out for those healthier options. Sugar is still something our body needs. We need glucose. It is a fast energy source. Glucose comes in many forms. It comes from carbohydrates, and it can also come from actual sugar. So sugar is not the devil. Like, we can still have sugar. We just need to be mindful about how much we have. But let's talk about those artificial sweeteners specifically. So if you are a client of mine, you probably know I am not the biggest fan of fake sugars, especially if you are one that tends to lean towards those artificial sweeteners in your coffee or your tea or whatever it is instead of regular sugar. I'm not a big fan of them because I believe that those compounds that are made up of artificial sweetener are not metabolized properly in our body. When those compounds are not metabolized properly, it congests our liver. And our liver is like the organ in our body that can take any kind of toxin, anything that's not digested properly, and flush it. That's what it's meant to do. It's supposed to, like, everything's supposed to go there, flush out, and then it's expelled through elimination. So, but when the liver doesn't even know how to detox it, it congests the liver. When the liver gets congested, that's when adipose tissue begins to form, which is fat. So, like, that's just my approach with artificial sweeteners, but let's dive into the actual scientific evidence. I'm going to give you a list of 10 things as to why, or that has been shown that these sugar-free drinks can cause problems. So choose your drug of choice, let's just say. So if that's Coke Zero or Diet Pepsi or even your sugar-free Crystal Light or whatever it is, or sugar-free vitamin water. Insert your favorite here. So go ahead and choose what it is and have this drink in your mind as I go through this list. So in my mind, I'm going to be thinking about Coke Zero, just because that's what comes to mind first. They have zero nutritional value. Let that sink in. Nothing. They have no nutritional value whatsoever. There are 0 calories in it. But what's really interesting, 0 calories over here, it's like, ooh, that's a healthy thing, right? Like no calories. I shouldn't be eating and drinking so many calories. Not necessarily. That's probably another video for another time. But then on this side, you have a list that's like this long of ingredients that you can't pronounce and you don't know and are not even necessarily written on the can or the bottle. So you have all these ingredients, but 0 calories? Where are all those ingredients going? Your liver. So just, anyway, 0 nutritional value. That's number 1. Number 2, a consensus has not been made by scientists that it is safe to ingest, but yet our FDA has approved it for us to have. Another one is there are significant concerns over the toxicity levels from the non-metabolized compounds of the sugars. So it's not been proven, but there are significant concerns around this problem. There are concerns if it can be carcinogenic. Carcinogenic is essentially like cancerous or creates disease, which in the next one you'll see, well, maybe it is carcinogenic. They increase, maybe Coke Zero, increases the risk of bladder and heart disease. So maybe it is carcinogenic. Studies have shown that sugars like aspartame, I don't know if you remember a few decades back, aspartame was like a ton of flack was given to it for good reason. It's made up in a lab, it's not real, it's chemicals. Like it's terrible for us. Anyway, studies have shown that sugars like aspartame, not just aspartame, so there are multiples that could create the same problem, induce a rise in glucose and insulin levels. So if you have diabetes, it's still bad for you to drink these drinks. It can and induces a rise in your glucose and your insulin. So typically, people with diabetes tend to lean towards these because they don't have sugar and they're not going to raise their blood sugar levels, because that's the difference between sugar and artificial sweeteners. Sugar raises your blood sugar. Artificial sweetener doesn't. They still have the same effect in the brain, but one actually affects your blood sugar. This is showing that that is not the case. Both can do that. They are a big contributor to metabolic syndrome, and metabolic syndrome is a cluster of conditions that kind of occur together, and it increases your risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. So things that, like it could increase your blood pressure, your blood sugar, excess body fat around your waist, specifically around your waist, abnormal cholesterol, and triglyceride levels. So it could be a big contributor to metabolic syndrome. Studies have shown that they can contribute to weight gain and weight loss. So weight gain and weight loss. So there's no consensus there. There are two sides. They've done multiple studies. Some studies have shown that it has created weight gain. Some studies have shown that it's created weight loss, and it's dependent on how that study is actually done, and there's no consistency in what it shows. So it's really dependent. If you're drinking these for weight loss, it's probably not a very effective method of weight loss. It also increases your waist circumference. So that adipose tissue that, is growing, that fat that is growing around your waist, it can increase that fat ratio. It could also alter your gut microbiome. So those are the 10 things that I pulled out from scientific research. If you want to go back and look at those, feel free. It's on my blog. Go to huntwellness.org blog. So you can go and take a look at that article. So you might be thinking, okay, great. I'm not supposed to drink these anymore. Now what do I do, Amelia? It's like, okay, so here's the bottom line, you guys. These drinks aren't healthy. They can create some wild issues in your body, and they are just not benefiting your body. They have no nutritional value. On top of that, companies are not disclosing all of the ingredients in their products. So, in my opinion, as a nutritionist, avoid them. Don't drink them. With that said, it is extremely difficult to cut these guys. It's hard to get off of them. It is an addiction. We saw that in the very beginning of this video, that it is proven to be an addictive food and drink. So we want to be really, have a little bit of patience and grace with yourself in this process. It could be very difficult to cut back. Work with a nutritionist, work with somebody that you feel like can help you and keep you accountable to coming off of them. If you want to do this yourself, go for it. I would suggest, if you're drinking three sodas a day, cut back to 2 a day for a week, and then cut back to 1 a day for a week, and eventually wean yourself off of them. So what's an alternative? I can't tell you how many people hate water. This hurts my heart, you guys. I don't like hearing that. I'm like, water makes up like 80% of your body. Like, we need water. And we should be drinking half of our body weight in ounces a day. So if you weigh 120 pounds, you should be drinking 60 ounces of water a day. So keep that in mind as your math. But if you're also having diuretics, which is like coffee and tea and sodas, you need to be adding 8 ounces of water on top of that 60 ounces a day. So you're really drinking 68 ounces of water a day. So diuretics, they make you use the bathroom faster, flushing more water from your body. So you want to be keeping that water up. So some alternatives. Water. Like, we need to drink water. Like, that is the only thing we should be worrying about drinking. And I know that sounds really boring, especially having all of these really highly palatable drinks that taste really good and are super satisfying. But you guys, water is essential to your life. Like, we have to have water, and that should be the main source of things you drink. If you don't like water, try fruit infused water. There are some really cool water bottles out there. You can find them on Amazon or wherever, and just put your favorite fruits in the center, fill it with water. That's still really healthy, and at least it's flavored naturally with actually natural foods, straight from the earth, and not with like stevia and fake natural, fruit sweetening. Like, just lemon and mint and cucumber or berries or whatever. Awesome alternative to just plain water. If you want to dive out a little bit further, you can do herbal teas, you can do black tea, matcha tea, and coffee. So those are things that, those are the ones I stick to. I am not on coffee right now, but herbal tea and black tea and water with lemon that's what I drink, and that's what I encourage anyone else to drink is water. So that wraps up another Hunt Wellness class. I hope that was helpful. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to comment below. I'm happy to answer